Hello, this is Eric Miskell with EMS Now. It's my pleasure to be sitting once again with Dieter Weiss, who is in Germany. Dieter, of course, is the market research guru for the EMS industry in Europe, primarily. Excuse me. And also my sometimes travel partner when he and I do tours of EMS companies. Dieter, it's good to see you. I'm glad to get a chance to catch up before the end of the year.
Yeah, good to see you as well, Eric.
Excellent. Listen, I want to just get a kind of a quick look at where the industry, especially in Europe, obviously stands as we're ending 25, moving into 26. I know that in speaking to you, you guys just kind of closed out 24 and are working on the 25 numbers. So maybe at a 30,000 foot level, give kind of a picture of what you're seeing in the industry in Europe.
Yeah, well, 24 is gone. We ended with two outliers separated with -9% in 24. And everybody was hoping that 25 would be much better and that what we still see as the outskirts of the bullwhip effect would finally be ended, because we have seen that with the big companies who had this dip not in 24 but in 23 already, uh,
Mhm.
uh, and they picked up in 24. So we expected that the average European companies in 25 would pick up at the same level, but no, that is not the case. It is very much dependent upon the country and the market served.
Yeah.
We have a specific problem in the biggest European market, which is Germany, which I have to be careful not in order to make too many people angry by making the statement that our problem in Germany is a political problem. The economy is down now in the third year, and this has nothing to do with the bullwhip effect. That comes on top. Yeah,
Yeah.
but we have what we call the red lantern, which normally at a train is always on the last wagon. Yeah, that is what we have over here in Germany at the moment,
Mhm.
and a lot of companies are complaining for two reasons. Number one is a complaining that there is insufficient business, even so it is picking up, but it's not picking up fast enough. And the second thing is that they think that the price pressure is too high. Um, they are badly looking for low cost countries where they can transfer part of their orders in order not to lose the customer, because that is the other thing. And you might have seen it on LinkedIn. I was just 2.5 weeks ago in Albania
Mhm.
opening the first EMS factory. There is one company already there, but they don't do SMT work over there. So this is now the first SMT factory in Albania, and that's a typical low-cost area. Yeah,
Mhm.
but there are more low-cost areas in Eastern Europe, and companies are looking to get into business with them in order to cope with the price pressure we are seeing.
Yeah.
The
So,
other thing is market segments.
yeah.
Uh, uh, Everybody talks about now airspace and defense. Yeah, and there is this demand of the American president that spending on defense has to increase in Europe, and we are talking about 5% of GDP over here in Europe, which is quite some numbers. And
Yeah.
if you watch the press announcement of several bigger public EMS over here, they constantly already again this today we heard that Another big order was filed with Kitron in Norway, but they are not the only one. Everybody is trying to push in that direction, whereas on the other hand, the automotive industry is still a problem.
Hmm. You've said a lot in that, so and I appreciate that. So let's unpack a couple of the issues. First of all, you were talking about the country specific. So I know you always do a comparison between traditional Eastern and Western Europe, right?
Yes.
And how you do that. And I thought for a while there we saw a movement from Eastern factories back into the West, but now it's kind of reversed, is it? And it's starting to push out again. Speak to what's happening there.
Well, let me give you an easy example. What happened, and sorry to jump back into 24, when exactly that happened, that except those two outliers on data centers for artificial intelligence, everybody else in the East suffered even worse than in the West. And that was simply due to the fact that it was easier for the EMS factories who have facilities in West and the East to pull back orders from the East to the West in order to keep the facilities in the West busy and
Hmm.
at the same time lay off people in the East. I don't
Yeah.
know whether I mentioned that before, but we had a total layoff of 6,800 people in 24 in the EMS industry, and the majority of that was in Eastern Europe, as it is easier from the labor law to get rid of these people.
Okay. And now the trend seems to be back, though, that it's moving like you're
Yes, now
indicating.
it's getting back, but again, it depends on the market segments how fast it's coming
Right.
back.
But within that too, and that's just not Eastern Europe. I mean, you and I had visited Tunisia. I know we've ended, just talked about what's developing in Morocco. So this is, do you see trends kind of moving into those lower cost areas as well?
Well, you know, and you have seen it as well in Tunisia, that Tunisia and Morocco are both countries, francophone
Yeah.
countries where everybody speaks French, where they are very professionally organized, but uh, somehow it is always a problem for people outside France to go into France or to go into a country where French is being spoken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the exception is Sycor when they this year bought Eolan.
Oh, and got the facilities there.
Yeah, but other than that, you don't see that very often. We have seen a lot of mergers and acquisitions this year in France.
Mhm.
For example, Argonne and Groupe Sunov, but as well Alliance Electronics. Those three companies, all in the range between 100 and 250 million in revenues, they are very active in acquiring smaller facilities to add to their group.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah,
that's
but that is focused on France, maybe some in Belgium and some in Italy.
yeah. Let me ask about that because that is something I want, and you've started it, so let's continue it. The M&A activity going on in Europe. I recall from earlier this year, and I won't get it exact, so you can correct me, that there was somewhere around 142 EMS companies in Europe that account for like 78% of the overall EMS revenue. Which means that there's so many, what, 1,500, whatever it is, small companies, right?
Yes, yes. From we have 2,000, a little more than 2,300 facilities, which are owned by 1,897 companies. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that is the situation, and uh, apologies for not having the right number in my head, but you are roughly right. It is a little bit more than 100 company which have about 80%, 78,
Yeah,
80% of the business. So there is still a lot of smaller companies.
yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
And some have a reason to be there. Others, I'm not
Yeah.
sure whether they have a bright future.
Right. And so what we see, I think, in leading into the M&A piece is that you see a desire to kind of get bigger by putting more of these entities together in some cases, where it makes sense, and also to expand into some new industry sectors for, for an EMS that's looking, to do so.
Yeah, see, I already, when the Corona crisis started in 2020, I already said this industry is up for consolidation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is simply too many companies, and uh, what we need is more, specifically in Europe, in comparison to what is happening in the Far East and in the United States. We need to have more bigger players who become global players. Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, you know we have, for example, let's take Videotone in Hungary. Yeah,
Hmm.
they now this year acquired 30% of Limtronic in Germany, but Limtronic as well has a factory in the United States, and they whereas in the past they only had electrical mechanical assembly over there, they finally installed SMT lines in there, and I think that's an important step for Videotone to have access to American manufacturing. Yeah,
Hmm.
we see the same with Sycor. Sycor bought this year the Moroccan and the American facilities of Valtronic. That
Hmm.
is just 4 weeks ago. Yeah.
Right.
So to Sycor as well, it means they now have a facility in the United States where they can serve their big customers who need to have a supplier who is able to manufacture in the United States to overcome the tariffs.
Right. Right. No, good point. Yeah, and that's interesting because I have seen that trend of the European EMS establishing, to hold there's more than obviously than the few that you just mentioned. And I also see that from EMS companies from India doing the same thing over here, right? Who are
Yeah.
interested in establishing, and trying to because I think those American US based OEMs, they may not be the huge billion-dollar brand ones, but some of those where it's good business want something local to deal with. The idea of just simply sending your manufacturing from, I don't know, Texas to India as the first step doesn't make sense. They want something local that you can work with, maybe then look to transfer later.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You wouldn't believe how many European EMS companies already have manufacturing facilities in the United States. Yeah,
Hmm.
Keytron has one, as far as I know, in Massachusetts.
Hmm.
InCap has one in Pennsylvania. Yeah, Vario Systems has one around the corner of Europe. Yeah,
Yeah.
in South Lake, Texas. Yeah. Uh, then Cartech has a facility. I forgot where.
Yeah.
Zero has a facility in Florida. So there is.
And Zollner has a whole
Oh, Zollner has EIT. They has have first of all they always had 2 or 3
Silicon Valley.
facilities in California, and now with EIT they have a facility in Massachusetts, which I
Yeah.
visited by the way last year,
Yeah.
and they have the facility in I think West Virginia and Virginia.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, uh, and that is important in
Yeah.
order to be able to serve properly the big OEMs.
Yeah. And that's interesting because to me that reinforces the kind of the mega trend within EMS of regionalization, right? Everybody talked about
Yeah.
reshoring and moving things around, but the real trend underneath that is regionalization, local for local, isn't it?
Um, yes. On the other hand, um, I would compare it at the moment. If you ask me, is there further regionalization going on over in Europe? I get this feeling at the moment we have a situation where the rabbit sits in front of the snake and both don't move and think who's going to make the next move and what's the next move going to be. Um we have really heavy competition from China at the moment. Yeah?
Mm,
I just lately read in a Chinese newspaper, which is translated in English, yeah, that at the moment 22% of all Chinese factories are making losses. Yeah,
oh my
so
God.
uh, they are hot. They are really hot on doing business, and the market in the United States is close to them at the moment. Yeah,
Right.
so what do? They focus on Europe at the moment, and we see that, we feel that. Yeah,
Mhm.
uh, and I get stupid emails and even phone calls every week from people who try to sell me something. Even
Mhm.
so, they just hear I'm in the electronics business, and then they want to sell me PCBs or components or whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think just thinking out loud here as we're talking about this trend, I think about, the M&A activity we talked about, the consolidation. That's not growing the total of the market, right? That's just
No,
taking the revenue within it and putting it with fewer players. The growth of the overall market, the what OE, getting more from the OEMs and getting them to outsource more is a different
yeah,
topic. And I think that's where I see the EMS companies' desire to vertically integrate more and to get more of that ecosystem involved is their step forward to try to get more from the OEMs. What do
yeah.
you think?
Well, but still, the EMS business is growing for another reason. Yeah, and that is, for example, if an OEM spins off part of his business. I have a good example over here. Former Bosch Security Systems, they spun off four of their factories, one in Mexico, one in China, one in Portugal, and one in Germany. Um, and those four factories were sold to a private equity company who is now developing the business. And yes, those four factories will now, in the beginning, uh, serve Bosch as well. But those products manufactured there now are by definition not OEM products anymore. They're now EMS products. So that is a three-digit million addition to the
Mhm.
EMS business. Yeah, and I have been to Ovar to the factories there. They have renamed those spin-off factories to Keyinfinity. And Keyinfinity, I visited the factory in Ovar in Portugal, and they just last week inaugurated a big factory extension. Yeah, but already this one factory with 10 SMT lines was very professional manufacturing cell management. That was very impressive, and they are now out there in the market as well, trying to chase more business. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
so that is what is happening.
yeah. Listen, before I shift to maybe looking forward into 26 and get your thoughts about what might be ahead of us, I did want to go back to because I know that'll influence your comments about what might be happening next year. More about the industry segments again, right? And you've touched about some of that. Automotive, kind of a traditional big one within Europe, has been down. Mil Aero, as you're indicating, everybody wants to get more into the military type because of the growth with the budgets going up. Um, there are other, but talk to what you're seeing there. I don't know what's happening in medical, maybe. I hear that connectivity is an area where there's a lot of new products constantly coming out because the renewal rate or the updating and improvement with those products is pretty on a pretty quick clip, right? As things get better and better. So as you look back, let's not look forward yet, but I mean, how would you characterize the strong sectors within Europe?
Well, the strongest sector at the moment definitely is defense. Yeah. And defense is growing at the moment at a rate of 15 to 20%. Yeah. Uh, but again, coming from a very small share. Yeah, we have been talking about the defense electronics market share in Europe running at about 4.5 to 5%. Yeah, so when that business improves by 20%, we are just talking about 1% more for the
Mhm.
total market. Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, and everybody is fighting for it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, the biggest market still being the automotive industry, and sorry to say it's that rude, it sucks. Yeah,
Hmm.
we are not seeing a clear strategy, and in addition, we have those people fighting. Environmentalists fighting against conservative people who say no, I'm only drive a burner. And the environmental people say, well, no, have a look. We see much more sales for EV cars. And again, uh, if I look at just what happens this week in Italy, Italy just offered 11,000 euro to every private person buying an electrical vehicle. And that program, I think, had a total amount of 600 million. It took them 4 hours, and the full budget was gone. Yeah. So, but that is not market.
Right.
Market is what the consumer decides. Yeah. But if you have to push the consumer by offering 11,000 euros, it's not market. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and
It,
that is a problem nobody knows at the moment.
yeah.
Whomever I talk with, what is the future of the automotive industry in Europe?
Yeah. And one of the big sectors that's the big wave in the EMS industry currently is clearly the AI push, which is the servers, which for the most part are not being made in Europe, right? Because of the most of that is still Asia and probably the United States or America, North America. There's might be some. I know that you said the Foxconn facilities may be doing some of that, but they may be importing the PCBA from China already, so there may be not a lot of value add being done there.
Yeah, see, we read it all the time that semiconductor demand for artificial intelligence is booming a lot, 30, 40%, mostly coming out of Taiwan. Yeah.
Hmm.
At the same time, we see that the packaging is changing a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, we see that the modules, which have been small BGAs, which let's say 100, 200 balls on the backside, those modules are changing to 12 to 15 by 15 centimeters in size. Yeah,
Hmm.
those modules being manufactured as BGAs, they have 5,000, 6,000 balls underneath.
Yeah.
And now you can imagine the complexity of assembling something like that onto a PCB. Ordinary PCB, which have a certain waviness due to the fact that PCBs are manufactured with woven glass fabric. Yeah,
Yeah.
they will not be good enough anymore. We see a dramatic change in the kind of PCBs in demand for those artificial intelligence data centers, and all smart PCB manufacturers are jumping on it because it's much more profitable business.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't wonder me, Eric,
Hmm.
if within the next 2 years we might get to a shortage of PCBs for the first time. Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
And I'm warning at the moment people over here, uh, and you know as well that the PCB industry in Europe is still suffering a lot. We are now at less than 2% of global manufacturing over here in Europe, with 168 facilities. Uh, but who is just buying PCBs out of greed in the Far East should not wonder if we do have a supply chain disruption in the
Mhm.
future on PCBs, that those companies will not be served by European PCB manufacturers if they haven't bought anything from them in the past.
Right.
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay, let's look forward. Let's look at 2026. It's here in what, a couple weeks now. We're
yeah,
almost there. So, and at the beginning of every year, hope springs eternal, right? Everybody is optimistic, and all the sales and marketing people especially. So, what is your sense of
yeah.
2026?
See, we already asked this question with the half-year survey this year, and I have to say the results, the feedback, what we got was crazy. Yeah, uh, people were telling us that already in the second half of this year, business would be picking up in two-digit percentages, and again in 26 as well. Forget about it. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah, on average, at the moment, we are calculating with a growth rate of 2.5 to 3.5% over here in Europe. Yeah,
Wow.
and I think that's a very realistic growth rate. And then we might have again two or three outliers who for the data centers, which
Hmm.
might bring this percentage up. But that
Yeah.
is nothing what the average EMS company over here in Europe is going to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And how do you see that? You talked about the sectors. Do you see Eastern Europe getting more of that than Western Europe still? Do you see any trends within the regions?
Yeah. Well, um, in the separation between East and West, yes, we gave Eastern Europe a much higher growth rate. But again, those outliers for the data centers are located in Hungary and Czech Republic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on top of that, we see more business being transferred from Western companies to the East. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And what to me is important as well is uh, I still do not see enough activities in regards to a future or a further automation of certain steps using, for example, either robots or cobots. Yeah?
Hmm.
I happen to be this week in Vienna with a medium-sized EMS company, which is as well an OEM and an ODM company. And it was interesting to see that they had a robot who automatically took the assembled PCBs, did laser engraving, followed by electrical testing, and then offloading it again. And even so, the company was not running in three shifts, but the robot was working in three shifts. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So uh, people are reluctant to invest in this situation. On the other hand, everybody talks about labor shortage. No, don't talk. Invest in automation and reduce your manufacturing costs. Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody can tell me that automation is too expensive. No, it is not. Yeah, because the automation costs are not increasing, whereas the labor costs are constantly increasing.
Yeah. No, good point. Listen, before I get to my final point and wish you a farewell for the year, is there anything else that you think it would be important to share with the audience about anything that you're seeing in the market?
Uh, Let me say it that way. Even so, it is difficult to stay optimistic in those days when you see a lot of negative things. Uh, we need to be more optimistic. We need to uh, uh, be very active in reducing the costs, and we need to be faster. Speed is of the essence. Yeah, uh, you cannot be the fastest, the best, and the cheapest. Yeah, uh, you can only have two of the three. Yeah,
Mm,
we know we cannot be the cheapest, but then let's be the best and the fastest.
yeah. So, Dieter, what I hear you saying is that you want to make Europe great again.
Eric, yes, let's make Europe great again.
Yes,
Definitely. That's
exactly.
my cap. Yeah. And not only Europe great again. Yeah. Let's make EMS great again.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Oh no.
let's make PCB great again.
There we go. There we go. That's a good message to end the year, Dita. That's an excellent
Yeah.
message. Listen, before I will just tease this, I think Dita and I may be going on tour again in 2026. We're in discussion about that, so I encourage everybody to stay tuned. We're looking to do tours a little differently here this next year, but it would definitely be in Europe. I think we have an interesting strategy for what we'd like to do, and that may not be until spring, summer of next year.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
good.
Sometime in June, maybe early June or mid of June.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
figure that out, but
But
stay tuned.
we'll definitely be on the road again.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. I'm glad. Dita, it's been an interesting year.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's also interesting because I visited with you twice this year, which is usually it's one. So I was able to come over to Europe twice over in 2025 and have the opportunity, one to tour, but the other one was for your
You're
birthday
gonna come
party
over
that
next
wasn't a
year twice
birthday
as
party.
well.
I'm sorry?
You're gonna come over to Europe twice next year as well because we have Electronica next year.
Absolutely, we will. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
maybe we do a little something around electronica too. We'll figure it out. But
yeah.
listen, as always, I really respect the work that you do in the industry. I think it's invaluable. I know a lot of companies rely on it. I know that it makes me smarter every time I speak to you to be able to get these data points and to get these insights. So please keep up the good work. I appreciate the camaraderie and the friendship that we've developed, and I hope to continue that in the years ahead. And I wish you and your growing family a very happy holidays and fullest fest.
Oh, thank you very much, Eric. I will. I hope you have the same with your children and grandchildren, because I know you have grandchildren as well. Even so, you don't look as old as I do. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but yes, I'm looking forward for the holiday season and relax a little bit. And I can tell you one thing for the audience. Uh, Watch out, we are always good for a couple of surprises next year.
Indeed, indeed. Dita, appreciate you. Happy holidays.
Same to you and same to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you.